If you want your makeup to make up every single time, this tutorial's for you.
Have you ever watched a makeup tutorial and thought, that looks amazing, but I have no idea where to start? The good news is that professional looking makeup isn't always about having the most expensive products. In many cases, it's about understanding the order of application, using the right tools, and taking your time with each step. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Today we are breaking down a beginner-friendly makeup routine and looking at some simple techniques that can help create a smoother and more polished finish. Whether you are completely new to makeup or just looking to improve your application, this video has some helpful tips you can learn from. So why wait? Let's start.
I'm going to start with a super hydrating moisturizer. My go-to, as you can see, is the Charlotte Tilbury Water Magic Cream. Very hydrating and leaves your skin with a super beautiful glow. Primer, you want to opt for something that has blurring or smoothing properties. This is the Danessa Myricks Water Powder Serum. You can do this step with your finger. I'm just using a brush today. You want to give these products enough time to dry down. I'm going to use a fan to accelerate this process. For full coverage or medium buildable foundation, I'm using the Haus Labs Triclone Foundation. To work this into a brush and then apply it straight onto the skin like I am, just evenly, and then I will blend it out using a brush. Pairing that with the Haus Labs foundation brush. Any dense brush is perfect for this step because you want most of the product to stay on your face. Sponges tend to absorb most of the product, so you are left with less coverage. Same with concealer, you want to go for something medium buildable or full coverage. Mix the MAC Studio Fix in NC45 with Too Faced Born This Way in Butterscotch. I typically will let that dry down a little bit, and while I'm doing that, I will just apply some bronzer.
Okay, so one thing beginners often underestimate is how much the preparation stage matters. It's easy to get excited about foundation and concealer, but makeup usually looks better when the skin underneath is properly prepared first. I also like the fact that she's allowing product time to settle before moving on. A lot of people rush through their routine, then wonder why everything starts looking uneven later on. Think of it this way: when the base is smooth, everything applied afterward has a better chance of looking smooth too.
And these are my placements. My aim is to have a lifted look, so I tend to pull everything back towards my temple and my ears. Makeup by Mario F4 is my favorite brush to blend out this step. Actually, if you're lace girly, I like to use a smaller brush. This is just the put a bit too much up there. This is just the Smashbox blurring concealer brush. Blend up my cheekbone, larger end to really blow that out. So you want to use a smaller side to concentrate that blending, just to keep it in place, and then you flip over to the larger side just to blow it out so it's nice and blended. The jaw, you can just go in with the larger end, or the fluffier side, shall I say, to connect and blend down. Obviously I'm wearing a crew neck. The only bits I need to worry about is my neck matching my jaw. But if you had an open top, you would need to blend it down depending on your shading. If at any point you feel like you've overdone it, go back in with that foundation brush. This applies for blush too. So we're going to take it up here. We're going to use the Yummy Face 3.0 from Danessa. I love letting it sit because see how little movement you're getting? Concealer just stays exactly where you placed it, which is essentially what you want. You don't want it to be slipping and sliding too much. Beautifully blended out, fades into the bronzer really beautifully. That just looks so stunning.
This is probably one of the most important parts of the entire routine because foundation and concealer creates the overall appearance of the makeup look. Something beginners often discover is that more product doesn't automatically mean better results. Sometimes careful blending makes a bigger difference than adding extra layers. Another thing worth noticing is the tools being used. Different brushes and blending tools can create different finishes, which is why two people can use the exact same product and still end up with very different results. So follow through every step and use the right tools.
If at any point you feel like you put too much of any step, just take a damp beauty blender. How to get your beauty blender damp is you wet it and then you wrap it in tissue paper or cloth and you wring out the excess. so it's not too wet. Otherwise, it's literally just going to pick up everything from your face and ruin your makeup. I had to set my liquids. Again, just something I do that makes all the difference for using the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush. Always do a spray so you know how it's coming out, because sometimes you just spray it straight onto your face and then you get a nasty surprise. You want a full coverage powder and a powder puff. You can also use a brush. I might show you what it looks like on both sides. If a powder puff is too complex, then use a brush. Make sure you always dab off so it looks smoother. However it looks on here is how it's going to deposit onto your face basically. So if it looks patchy, it will deposit patchy. Pat, pat, pat. I want to start with less product and build up, so work in thin layers because it's always easier to add than it is to take away. I like to use a small dense brush, just again, control. I want that powder to be exactly where I put it and nowhere else. If you prefer to set that under eye with a brush, just say fluffy pointed brush is amazing for this, and so quick and probably a bit more beginner friendly. I'm supposed to do a cream blush, but I forgot, so we're just going to stick with powder, starting first with this YSL. I think I'm going to layer, tap off any excess so it's not so intense when it goes directly on your face.
Okay, at this stage the makeup is really starting to come together. Powders, bronzers and setting products are often used to help create balance and dimension throughout the face. One mistake beginners sometimes make is applying too much product too quickly. Building gradually often gives you more control because it's easier to add product than it is to remove it. The small details may not seem important while you're applying them, but together they can completely change the final result.
I prefer high placement for a lifted look. Dragon Fruit Days from Haus Labs. I'm going to take your bronzer. I'm using the NARS Laguna powder. Tap off that excess. And then you just want to go through and blend that into the bronzer, into the blush, sorry. It's already looking muted. Is it? To me it is. This is the Smith 112. I'm also going to flip in and use the Smith 118, something fluffy and big for those areas that you want to be a bit more blown out. Once you've done that, you want to take a pressed powder, ideally one that's full coverage and a little bit lighter than your skin tone. I like the airbrush finish in number 2 from Charlotte Tilbury, P. Louise 675. You essentially want something that's dense and pointed, and then you just want to tap, 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 and blend that into the blush. So ready. At this point, I'm going to set my face. This is the Kosas Cloud Set Airy Set and Smooth and Mist. First time using this, maybe risky. Okay. I love that. More, because that was actually very nice. Okay, I just lightly filled in my eyebrows. I like to use the Pro Brow Definer from MAC. So good in the shade Onyx. Very thin. You can barely see her, she's thin. Lips, I'm using MAC Chestnut Honey from Anastasia. Prisma glosses from Armani Beauty. We're going to start with, let's start with this one. This is in 02. This is more of a shimmery. This is 05. Right, this is the finished Glam. Listen, she's gonna eat every time. This is one to master because you can tweak the eyes, you can tweak the lips, you can tweak the cheeks. All you need to really lock down is the technique, and this is the simplest way to follow the techniques. I hope you found it simple to follow. I hope you learned something cool and new. If you got this far, I want to see a gorgy pink heart. Mwah! Bye.
Okay, what I like about this routine is that it shows that makeup isn't necessarily about perfection. It's about learning techniques, practicing, and figuring out what works best for your own features and preferences. Okay, so the products themselves are only part of the process. Patience, blending, preparation, and application techniques often make an even bigger difference. If you're beginner friendly, don't feel pressured to master everything at once. Most people improve over time by practicing and adjusting their routine little by little. And one thing I may advise everybody is please take care of your skin. Okay, skincare first before we even talk about makeup. And don't forget, credit goes to Uche, the creator of this video. So let us know in the comment what makeup steps you find the most challenging. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications for more beauty content. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.